I've grown a personal YouTube channel to over 100,000 subscribers. I've had a bunch of faceless channels that have grown to similar numbers, and I've helped people to grow far beyond my size of an audience through my YouTube agency called Bunny Media. And the more that we deal with people, the more I see the same recurring things as to why people aren't successful on YouTube. And so I basically just wanted to make this video for if anyone really wants to be successful on the YouTube platform. It's not simple. It's not even that complicated. It's just not easy. I think that's one of the biggest things that people get wrong. Because when we deal with people, it's usually one of two things. They either say that, oh, we're way too expensive, or it should come way faster. And so when you think about it from that perspective, they just want to get to an end destination as soon as possible. And when you think about the incentives towards creating content, it's purely for them, right? And so that problem, that lens is exactly why they don't find success, is because effort gets rewarded. And so this is unlike other platforms. Like YouTube is not a game where you can just volume your way to success, typically, unless you're getting better through that volume. But if you're just throwing out garbage, there's really no middle ground on YouTube. You either find success and it's a successful video relative to the size of that potential audience, or it's a failure and no one clicks it. And there's almost no in between, right? So Mr. Beast has the saying that I use all the time in sales calls, because it's true. It's easier to make one video that gets 1 million views than it is to make 10 that get 100,000, right? And so then that comes into the thing I'll say all the time is that effort gets rewarded, right? And people can feel effort. People can tell when something is created that's genuinely valuable, right? And that can come in any sort of value form that makes sense for you and the kind of content you create. It could be laughs. It could be education. It could be connection. It can be whatever it is. But when you come into the content thinking purely for yourself, which is what a lot of potential clients that we talk to, they are purely thinking about themselves the whole time. And you can even hear it when they talk about the videos or how they're going to create videos or how their content is. It's like, it's from a place of ego, right? It's like, oh, I can do this with these people in this location. It's like, okay, but does the person at the end of the day care, right? Or are you saying all these things because you think that's enough to convince the person that they should care? And there's a massive difference, because if the video is good enough in its own right, the location doesn't really matter, right? That's how you can see still to this day, as long as the video is packaged okay, there are some videos that aren't high production quality that crush it, right? It's not about that. But a lot of people get fixated into thinking it's all these bells and whistles that dictate success. And at the end of the day, it's just not. And we see it all the time, all the time. And I know when we start working with someone, or if we start talking about potentially working with someone, I can see it. I always know that the channels that are going to be successful and the ones that aren't going to be successful. And it comes down to the creator's intention and what they're trying to do. And why I love YouTube so much is because it's not like any other platform, right? You can kind of gamify growth on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, even LinkedIn, like all those platforms. You can pretty predictably gamify growth, right? Even if you're an agency. And so like you can have overseas talent or AI, and it can handle a lot of the work where if you just throw enough shit against the wall, something is going to stick. That's not the case on YouTube. And that's exactly why I love it. That's why we made our entire agency dedicated to this platform, because it's unlike anything else. And if you come into these things with false intentions, you can't really fake that over a long form piece of content or many long form pieces of content. People start to smell shit, right? And when they smell shit, they check their shoes. And when it's not there, they think that it's on your shoes. Right. So that's just how it goes. And so that's why you don't really see people break through on YouTube unless there's a reason for it. Right. And you can even look at, say, recent emergences like Sam Sulik or whatever. And you can tell he, whether you like him or hate him or agree with his messages or not, there's a genuine desire behind his content to give people something. And I still think that reigns true on YouTube, especially for long-term success. You might be able to ride a trend to get a bit of virality. And if you learn how to study YouTube and study the game, then you can find those opportunities. You can ride that wave a little bit. But to build long-term success on the platform, you got to be genuine. And that's also what I would say is if you want to grow on this platform, there's so much value in doing it because people fail to look at the long tail of what success could mean for them, because they're so used to seeing people blow up overnight on TikTok or Instagram, all these other like really short form transactional platforms, that's how I like to call them. And so like anything, as fast as it goes up, it can go down. And people see that, right? Like if you still see some legacy creators on Instagram or TikTok, I guess is TikTok old enough to call them legacy creators? Whatever. There's very little sustained growth, and typically it's like hard to keep that going. Whereas on YouTube, people can have diehard audiences that will typically move with them, unlike other platforms. And if they have a podcast, they'll listen to it, right? Whereas oftentimes on say TikTok or more of these short form platforms, they want that little dopamine hit, and that's all they really want. They don't really care who it's coming from. They just followed you because they saw your stuff enough, or maybe there was one video they wanted to sign up for. Whereas when someone clicks the subscribe button, or simply when someone clicks something, that level of commitment is so dramatically different. So if you get them to come into your world, you can achieve so much more in one long form YouTube video than you could in hundreds of TikTok videos, because you can actually get to substance, right? Whereas on TikTok, Instagram, you're constantly playing the game of just keeping their attention, right? Like refreshing the goldfish's internal clock. That's all you're doing, right? You're playing that game of, I got to keep you here. And so when you create through that lens, you don't create organically. You don't create like you have a captive audience. And so with that, you constantly feel rushed, and then it feels rushed. And so that's why all the content that performs over there is just pure dopamine hits. It's like little, what I call mental masturbation in the personal development or education niche. It's like little things that people save or they share, but they never actually come back and use. Whereas YouTube is a different platform, right? Like people will actually spend the time. I've learned most of my skills through YouTube. I have a university degree. I've learned way more from YouTube content than I ever did on my university classes. Not even close. And if you want some free game on YouTube, if you want to learn as a consumer, the gold mine for views is like under 10,000. Some of the most valuable videos I've ever seen have had under 10,000 views, because I want you to think about something critically here. If something appealed to millions of people, it means it can't be that valuable, because if everyone could understand it, it means that it's too general to actually bring you enough substance to give you an advantage. If everyone else who watched this video also understands it, it can't be high level enough to make something a really big deal. But a lot of times the videos that take off are so simple because enough people can feel like, oh, I understand this, which that doesn't really help you. If you want to be a specialist or if you want to really stand out, the general information doesn't really pertain for you. So 2 things, as a consumer, don't let the view count dictate what you watch and what you don't watch, or what you assign value to. Try to fight the natural bias of social proof, because it's bullshit, right? Like we've been trained that high numbers means value, which could not be more wrong. Some of the most valuable videos I've ever watched have had less than 10,000 views, and to this day, they'll never go viral because they can't. Because the average person they're not willing to put in the work to then see where the value is here in this 10,000 view video. Like they're not going to do all the steps 1 through 10 to then get to 11, right? So your potential audience for this 11th step is only the people who have done 1 through 10. Because anyone else who hasn't, they're going to feel alienated by it, and they're going to stop watching it. So this is the stuff you actually want. And even as a creator, it's not all about numbers, because sometimes you want to speak to somebody on step 10 because you can sell them something really expensive to get to step 11. And I love that this narrative is getting pushed more. And this is really another reason why we focus on long form when everyone else was sprinting over to short form, is we feel and we know that big time decisions happen when big time players spend big time consuming content, right? And that investment is there. And anyone who's going to consume that kind of content is the kind of person you want to sell to. So virality can be great. Sure. Are you going to attract some of these people through a viral video? Sure. But absolutely understand that value is not synonymous with views. It's just not, as a creator or a consumer. So figure out what your goals are. Are your goals as a consumer to mentally masturbate? Then maybe you want to watch the videos just to make yourself feel good and consume all the BS fluff that will be typically in these multi-million videos in the education space. Or as a creator, if all you ever do is attract the masses, you better be selling something that the masses can consume. And typically that can't be that expensive. So the choice is really yours. But YouTube can be whatever you want it to be if you understand what you want to get out of it. And that's really the message of this video. I've been dealing with a lot of clients as of late of inbound leads, and this has been a recurring thing. So this is kind of just a rant, but I love YouTube. It's changed my life, and I've seen it change so many other people's lives. But their approach to it is so biased from other previous social media interactions that they fail here. And it's largely due to mentality. And so this is the stuff I deal with every single day in my agency, and there's not many people to talk about it with. So I'm talking to you. But if you have any questions about YouTube, I'd be happy to answer. If you are somebody who's looking to grow on YouTube, my agency is linked down below. Feel free to reach out to us there or send me an email. I think that's in the description box of this video as well. But I'm here to help, here to chat. Let me know. I'll see you in the next one, and I hope to see your videos on YouTube.